So welcome to this training on the Consumer Contracts Regulations 2013 that came into effect on the 13th of June 2014. Now you should hopefully have already watched video 1 that was all about the right to cancel. And today we're going to be moving on to the second most important thing, which is about information requirements. Now lots of information is actually already required in the existing law before the new Consumer Contracts Regulations. About 15 areas of different information that you had to provide in your terms of business, including the main characteristics of the goods or services, the identity of the trader, and the total price payable. And you should already have those 15 or so areas of information requirements already contained in your existing terms of business. However, the new regulations have added another 13 requirements that you must provide to the customer. So what are those additional information requirements? Before we go into that, let me just remind you who I am. My name is Suzanne Dibble and I'm a multi-award-winning business law expert. I work with hundreds of small business clients to make sure that their businesses are properly protected. I'm a recognised expert in this area and regularly have organisations such as Barclays approach me to be a guest expert on their small business site to keep small businesses up to date with things just like this, with new changes in the law that are really going to impact on their business. Now, the new information requirements, which must be provided before the customer actually enters into the contract, have a number of different levels as to how you need to provide that information. So there's some information that you need to provide in a clear and comprehensible manner. Then there's a further set of information that you need to provide in a clear and prominent manner directly before the order is placed. And then finally, there's some other information that you need to provide clearly and legibly at the latest at the beginning of the ordering process. So it's quite complicated as to what information you need to provide and actually how you need to provide it. So the first area there was that you had to provide information in a clear and comprehensible manner. And there's actually 24 bits of information that you have to provide to your customers before they enter into the contract. And that includes things like your place of business. Now this is a new change that has come in with the new law. And previously you could have just put in your geographical address, which could have been your registered office. But now you have to put in your place of business, and the guidance that we've just received from the European Commission says that place of business is the place where the essential decisions concerning the trader's general management are taken and where the functions of its central administration are carried out. So if you work from home, then it's clear that your home is where the essential decisions are taken and where functions of central administration are carried out. So you are going to have to disclose your home address before the customer places the contract. You're also going to have to add in things like your complaint handling policy and the existence of relevant codes of conduct. 24 bits of information that have to go into your terms of business. And it would seem from all the guidance that we have at the moment is that in a clear and comprehensible manner means that it's okay to have a link to your terms of business in a place where the customer can access it before they finally press the order now button and actually enter into the contract. Now, if you want to see the entire 24 bits of information that you need to provide in your terms of business, then you can look at the legislation and go to Schedule 2 of the regulations, and all of the information that you need to provide is set out there. However, that is the difficult way of doing it. So if you want to know the easy way of doing it, then listen in to the end of this video and I will tell you a much easier way of making sure that you're providing all of the required information to your customers. Now, if you don't make this information available relating to delivery charges, ongoing monthly costs, or the cost of returning the goods, then the customer does not have to pay for those charges. We touched on digital content in the last video, and there are information requirements that are specific to digital content, and that includes the functionality and technical protection measures, compatibility of the digital content, and also, as we were talking about on the last video, you need to include the express consent of the consumer to you providing the services before the end of the cancellation period, and also their acknowledgement of the fact that they have lost the right to cancel. Now, in the latest European Commission guidance on digital content, it says that the following information should be given in relation to functionality. It should include the language of the content and, if different, language of any instructions included with the content. It should include the method of providing the content, for example, streaming, online, one-off downloading, or access to the download for a specified time. And for video or audio files, it should show the playing duration of the content. It should also include, for downloadable files, the file type and size of the file. And you should also make clear whether there is a commitment or not by you or any third party to maintain or update the product. Then finally, you should also include any limitations to the use of the product. So that might include limits to the number of times or the duration that a digital product can be watched, read or used, limits to the reuse of content for purposes such as private copies, or restrictions based on the location of the consumer's device. And then actually one more thing that you have to make clear is whether any functionalities that are conditional on additional purchases, such as paid content, club memberships or additional hardware or software, those functionalities also need to be specified in the terms of business. If you are providing digital content to consumers, and remember this is all just about consumers, not businesses, but if you are providing digital content to consumers, then you might want to find the Commission guidance on this and look at Annex 1, which provides a model for the information that you need to give about digital products. That's the hard way of doing things. If you want to do things the easy way, then listen to this video to the end, and I'll be telling you the very easy way that you can comply with all of it. And remember, if you don't make the information available about digital content that you need to, then the customer does not have to pay. And that could lead to a situation where the customer has downloaded and consumed the digital content, but then cancels and asks for a refund, and legally they would be entitled to that refund. Now, the second level of information that you need to provide is that you must make the consumer aware in a clear and prominent manner and directly before the customer places the order of certain information. So this is a higher level than the last level of information that we were talking about, where that information could be provided in the terms of business. And this information that you need to provide at a higher level includes the main characteristics of the goods or services, the total price charged, the total delivery charges, monthly costs if there are any, the duration of the contract, and the minimum duration of the contract if it's of an indefinite period. Now, the European Commission guidance on when this information is actually to be provided is that it should be provided at the moment in which the customer is asked to verify the order, and where they can actually see and read before placing the order and without having to navigate away from the page. So that would suggest that this information cannot be contained in a link to terms of business. This information has to be available on the actual checkout page itself before the customer presses the final Pay Now button and the contract is concluded. So this means in all likelihood that you will need to change your checkout page in order to comply. Now that might mean if you are using a template website, that might mean that you have to go back to the provider of the website template and ask them to change that for you. If it's your own website, then if you're not able to make that type of change to your website yourself, it will involve you in going to your website developer and asking them to do it for you. But either way, you need to make sure that on the checkout page, the final checkout page before the customer presses the order now or pay now button, that information, those 6 key points, are provided on that page. Now, the next level of information, which is an even higher one, is that it has to be provided clearly and legibly, and at the latest at the beginning of the ordering process. And the 2 information requirements that this level of information applies to is whether any delivery restrictions apply and which means of payment are accepted. So this needs to be at the beginning of the ordering process. So there isn't actually any specific guidance on this point, but arguably that might be even before a customer clicks on a product to add it to the basket. So for each product, in the product description, you need to include whether any delivery restrictions apply to that individual product and which means of payment are accepted. Now you will also need to change your order now button, or whatever you might call it, because there needs to be a clear and unambiguous formulation indicating that placing the order entails an obligation to pay. So if you have a button that says register, confirm, order now, or anything like that, then you will need to change that to use the term either pay now, buy now, or confirm purchase. This also applies where you're offering a free trial. Even if there is no immediate payment, you still need to have a button that says pay now and that makes the payment obligation clear. So if you don't change your button to make it say pay now or something else that indicates the obligation to pay, the consumer is not bound by the order. Now, if the contract is made via distance communication that is limited in space or time, for example, a tweet or a text, then you must provide certain information within that tweet or text. Now, it's probably not that likely that contracts are actually going to be concluded through a tweet or a text. Most often than not, you will be directing people to a website through a tweet or a text. But if a contract is actually concluded through that tweet or text, then you do have to provide the following information within those characters. And the information that you have to provide is the main characteristics of the products or services, your identity, and the total price, or if there isn't a total finite price, how the price is calculated. You also need to include whether there's any additional delivery charges, the costs where the contract is of an indeterminate duration or where it's a subscription, and also information about the right to cancel. And then you have to provide a link to the rest of the information that you need to provide, so i.e. a link to your terms of business that then provides the rest of the information. And when I say rest of the information, I mean the 24 information points that we discussed earlier on this video. Now, if you have a telephone call to conclude a distance contract, then at the beginning of the call, you must make clear your identity, or if you're phoning on behalf of somebody else, their identity, and the commercial purpose of the call. Then, once you've provided all of that information pre-contract, you must provide confirmation of all of that information in a durable medium. Durable medium should enable the consumer to store the information for as long as it's necessary for him to protect his interests stemming from his relationship with you. So probably what will be the easiest thing for you to do is for you to send on your confirmatory email a PDF of your terms of business, which will contain all of this information. Now, you can't just send a link to your existing terms of business because they might change. It needs to be a snapshot record of what that particular customer has agreed to and what information you've provided them within your terms of business. So the best way to do it, if possible, is to have a PDF of the terms of business that's sent to the consumer following the placing of the order. The confirmation needs to be provided within a reasonable time of the order being made and not later than the time of delivery or performance of the services. So if you don't comply with the law in this area, we've already seen some of the practical impacts that this can have on your business. So for example, if you don't provide customers with information about delivery charges, then the customer doesn't have to pay for those delivery charges. If you don't provide them with a pay now button so that it's made clear that there's an obligation to pay, then the customer is not bound by that contract. But in addition to those impacts on your business, if you don't comply with the law, then you can be on the receiving end of a private action for breach of contract by the individual consumer. And perhaps more importantly, you can also be on the receiving end of an investigation or enforcement by an enforcement authority, and that is obviously something that no small business owner wants. So what can you do now? Well, as you know, this is a 3-part series of videos, so you can just watch the next video. You could buy the template terms that I'm making available with this video series, or if you're concerned that your business is 100% protected, then you can get in touch with me to find out more about me drafting you bespoke terms. So if you want to buy the template, what I recommend that you do is that you go to my website, www.suzannedibble.com/sellingonline, and you'll be able to buy the template from that page. If you do want me to draft you bespoke terms, then all you need to do is email me at support@suzannedibble.com and we'll be in touch to discuss that further. So that's all there is on information requirements. The next video is all about additional charges and the remaining bits of the new regulations, so please do watch out for that. I hope that this video has been useful for you, and if you have any questions about any of the information that I provided you with or how you can get hold of a template, then please do just get in touch with me. Until the next video, all the very best.